Well, jazz music is a complete gift from those who were enslaved and forced against their will to come over here to North America. And I happen to come from Virginia, one of the original slave states. So I have to say that with a bit of an apology for all of us white folks that enslaved the black people. It's part of the story. But when the Africans were brought over to be slaves against their will, they brought their music with them. And that was often suppressed. Some of this music couldn't happen in the out loud kind of way. They couldn't play their drums, for instance. So they had to take their drum patterns, which is the binary pattern of one hand and the other hand, which is a beautiful way that we are as mammals, having two paws with which to make sounds on a surface. And it has become a sophisticated drum music. They had to put this into the other instruments that they played, whether it be the piano, and you have some of this in the ragtime kind of gestures, or the guitar work that they did, which had to be translated into that, or the way that they used the clap and their singing, so that they would clap one beat while singing another one, directly from Africa. And yet, in many places, actual drums were forbidden, so they had to implant those inherent rhythms that they had in their bodies on some other format. So they brought their field hollers, they brought their syncopations, they brought their music, which became then known as spirituals, and their work songs. And eventually that music found its way into, and the storytelling, into forms which then became known as early blues, early ragtime, and then that led to jazz. So the whole story of an African culture in this form of music was so brand new to the European people that had otherwise colonized North America. Pushed the natives away, of course. That was another part of this very unpleasant story. Got rid of the First Nations people best they could so that they could have their facades of European culture, brought in the Africans. But when the white people and the African-rooted people started putting their forces together musically, in spite of all the ills, some amazing accidents resulted, one of which was jazz. Jazz is totally dependent on the African contribution, but at the same time it's totally dependent on having gone through this incredibly narrow sieve of the imprisonment, the enslavement, and coming out the other end. So it's sort of the ice wine. When you make wine and you have tons of grapes and you press and press and press, and if you press this much, you get a bottle of wine. But if you press about 20 times more, you get, I don't have any ice wine here, it's too precious, but you get a small container about this high that would be the ice wine. And that's sort of what jazz is. It's taken all these many experiences, compressed and compressed and compressed them until you get the finest expression, and it comes out as jazz.
It's beautifully said.
Well, thank you.